Én Stier Kata vagyok, ez pedig a Bitcoin Kebab, a BitcoinBázis podcastja. Some of you may have already heard that Knut Svanholm's book, Sovereignty and Independence, will soon be published in Hungarian by BitcoinBázis. The timing is perfect, so I am pleased to announce that on the 31st of October, on the 15th anniversary of the publication of the Bitcoin white paper, BitcoinBázis will launch the web shop for ordering the book. Let me show you the book. And please note that payments are only possible in sats. Knut is in the house. So, hello. For the ashamed who has never heard of you, let me tell that he's a well-known figure in the Bitcoin community. He's an avid Bitcoin advocate, author, educator, and philosopher. And I would also add the term Bitcoin optimist that he used to describe himself in one of his keynote speeches. So thanks so much for accepting the invitation. It's really an honor having you here.
Well, thanks for inviting me. It's an honor to be here.
You know, yesterday I rewatched your keynote at Bitcoin Amsterdam last year. And
oh, yeah.
Yes, and you were talked about how you got involved with the Bitcoin community, and you described the Honey Badger conference in Riga as the place where you had the chance to meet your idols. And actually the same happened to me last year. So do you mind me telling the story, how we got the idea to translate your book? So originally I got your book as a present, as a Christmas present, 2 years ago from the founder of BitcoinBázis. At the time, he used to live in Germany, and he sent this book by post all through the way down to Malta. And I think I read it in like 5 hours. And I must admit that this was my gateway drug. You were my gateway drug to the rabbit hole of Bitcoin.
Happy to hear that. Which book was that? Which?
That was Sovereignty, Bitcoin Sovereignty through Mathematics.
Yeah, okay.
And it really got me thinking. And although I was working in the space since 2017, it took me a couple of years to understand, to start to think about it from a different perspective. Mm-hmm. So when I got to know that I will participate Honey Badger, and I discovered or realized that you are amongst the speakers, I knew what to do. I grabbed the book, I put it in my bag first, and I knew that I'm going to approach you asking for to sign the book for me. And the day had arrived. I really felt like a 12 years old schoolgirl, standing, hiding. I saw you back at the time you were promoting your book. This one I show you. If you don't know, 21 million. Yeah. And I approached you. You signed me the book. We had a nice chat, and then you asked me if you say this is your signature, and you asked me if I want to get this book too. And I said, yeah, of course. And when I had to pay, I realized that I only had shitcoins on me. Euros. Obviously, you didn't accept it. And I felt really embarrassed and awkward, like, oh, Jesus Christ. But you were kind. You were very kind, actually. And you said that, listen, you know what? At some point, at some time, we will meet again, or maybe virtually or in person, doesn't matter. But you will have the chance to give back any kind of value in exchange. And I was like, okay. So I grabbed the coffee. I went out of the conference building, and I started to think how and what to do. And in I don't know, after 2 minutes, it just popped up in my mind that, okay, I got the solution. I immediately texted Balázs, the owner of BitcoinBázis. with the question that, listen, what do you think if we would translate this book into Hungarian? I don't know, maybe 30 seconds. His reply was back and he said, oh, very good idea. Okay, talk to Knut, fix everything with him, and then we start. So I went back to your stand. I asked you that, what do you think if this would be my value exchange towards you? And I think you liked the idea. So we started to organize everything, although it took a little bit of time because it was all more than a year ago. But anyway, the book is ready and available, although this is not the same book because it was republished, right? Together with another book of yours with Independence. Anyway, I highly recommend the book. So we are on the mission of orange pilling Hungary, but you are at the forefront of orange pilling the world, aren't you?
Well, that's I'm in some sort of forefront, I guess, but I don't know which one really. Like, being a public Bitcoiner, you always have this, like, you're somewhere in between total imposter syndrome and I am the lizard king, I can do anything. It's kind of hard. It's kind of hard to pinpoint where in between those 2 points you are at the moment. But I'm trying my best to contribute.
But is this really a mission of yours?
To orange pill the world?
No, I mean being a public Bitcoiner and all the philosophy of Bitcoin, which I will ask a little bit more in details because this is very interesting. But
I mean, I wrote the book for fun mostly. I mean, I had put a book together before that with just my articles compiled into a book, and then that was the only book I had to my name. So I thought to myself, I better put a real book out at some point. So, so that because that one was kind of embarrassing. So that's why I wrote Sovereignty Through Mathematics, and I found a really good editor by happenstance, and the book turned out really well in the end, I think. But all the other stuff, like being public and now being a podcaster and everything, they're sort of downhill from that. I mean, they sort of just happened over the years, and but I enjoy life, and I'd like to live it to the fullest, and I'm gonna embrace all of it. Like, I like that. It's like that Jim Carrey movie, Yes Man, you know.
One of my favorites. Yes,
yeah,
is the new no.
Yeah. Do you want to do this? Do you want to do that? Yeah, why not?
Of course.
And this exchange that you're describing, this is it. There's some philosophy in there, because
actually that's why I was citing your speech at the Bitcoin Amsterdam, because this is what you were talking about, and it's crazy interesting. So please, if you can eliminate on it, what was in the speech, if you still remember.
Well, the thing is that, does that count as a Bitcoin transaction or not? Well, it counts as a transaction. I give you a book and you make the translations happen, which is worth way more than just selling the book to you. So like, for me, that's more value. And the exchange wouldn't have happened if Bitcoin didn't exist.
True.
Right?
True.
Still, we didn't clog the network at all. There was no sats exchanged whatsoever.
Untouched.
But it's still two Bitcoiners helping one another by a consensual exchange of goods or services. In this case, a good for a service. And the good in question is a book, so it's really a service, because books are information. If you really boil everything down to its essentials, I mean, everything is a service. If you buy a sofa, that's sort of a service as well. Like, it provides you with the service of giving you something comfortable to put your ass on while you watch TV. So in that sense, everything is a service. But I love these, value for value things where you just give someone a book and they may or may not give you something back in the future. And if the book is good enough, people will be compelled to give you something back. whether that is money or whether that is just something else, doesn't really matter. I mean, and I think this is one of the wonderful things that Bitcoin does, and what it will do even more in the future as we move into hyper Bitcoinization. We will be using, to a larger and larger extent, using a deflationary money, which is Bitcoin, which makes you prioritize quality over quantity. You know that your money is going to be worth more in the future, have a higher purchasing power. So you're incentivized not to spend it on frivolous things, but to think really hard, do I really need this thing or this service before you spend it? So you become a very reluctant spender.
Exactly.
I describe it as one divided by clown world, because you remove all the consumerism and all the politics from the greatest
dream word.
Yeah, the greatest noise remover ever.
Oh yes.
But anyway, and there's another thing to this, and this is that you and I are both Bitcoiners, so we decided to help one another, because if we help other Bitcoiners succeed, we help Bitcoin succeed. And that's what we hope to achieve with this podcast, right? If I help you by being on the podcast, you help me by interviewing me on the podcast, then maybe we can spread the message and get more people. So get more people onto Bitcoin. So we are pumping our bags, for a lack of a better term. We are the big point being that we're being incentivized to just help one another, and this is where it becomes kind of diffuse, because a Bitcoin transaction on chain is obviously a Bitcoin transaction. A Bitcoin transaction on the Lightning Network, well, most people who use the Lightning Network use custodial solutions, and
yes.
They might be rug pulled at some point. But the way I use it is, for instance, is I use a custodial app when I'm at the conferences, and then I put it in cold storage when I come back or something. Different solutions for different scenarios, but still. So is that using Bitcoin? That becomes sort of a gray zone. But this, exchanging words with one another, or exchanging a book for a service, is that using Bitcoin? Well, in a certain sense, because the transaction wouldn't have happened if we didn't have Bitcoin, right? So
exactly. But still,
it gets very muddled. And hodling is just trading with yourself. Really,
wow.
you're trading with yourself through time. So everything is a trade, like the first chapter of Sovereignty through Mathematics.
Sorry, I would say fighting with yourself. This is hodling.
yeah. Resisting the temptation to buy stupid stuff.
Exactly, eliminating the emotions.
Resisting the Lambo. And my grandfather had a saying that I've quoted many times because it's stuck in my head and I can't get it out. And it's, that which you can do without, you own. And it's like the flip side of the notion that your things end up owning you instead of the other way around. Mm-hmm. Like the more urges to own stuff that you can resist, the freer you are, and the more time you have on your hands to do whatever you want. So in a sense, if you don't crave a Lambo, you own all the Lambos.
Exactly.
And I think Bitcoin is maybe not, making everyone realize that and making everyone become a monk, but it is making us, it is taking us on that path and getting us closer to that truth.
Obsession.
Yeah.
So let us jump back a little bit. Can you share about a little bit of your background and how you first became interested in Bitcoin, and how did you went through this path where you arrived to Bitcoin philosophy?
Yeah.
So many questions, I know.
Yeah. It's hard to remember all the steps, but after finishing high school, I didn't know what to do with my life at all. So I started studying electronics engineering and dropped off after a year. I passed all the maths courses, but I flunked everything else, and I was very tired of schools in general. So after that, I what am I going to do now? And my father was a sea captain, so he had some connections to the shipping world. So I started working on boats or on ships. And after a couple of years, I got into the Merchant Marine Academy and got my degree. And then shortly after that, I started to work on a tall ship where I didn't make that much money, and I didn't get to any further steps in terms of certificates because the ship was a bit too small to level up there. But I had a very carefree life. I spent half the year sailing around the world and half the year at home, and I could do whatever I wanted with my days. Like I had my watches between 12 and 4, and at day and night, making the ship move on a straight line.
Very exciting.
That wasn't very hard, but I had a lot of time to think and a lot of time to study other stuff and play chess and whatever I felt like doing, and play guitar. So and I guess that's where I first heard about Bitcoin during those years. I don't remember an exact point, and I don't remember when I got my hands on my first Bitcoin, but I think this is around 2014 maybe that I start getting interested. And I took a course in 2016 called the MOOC in digital currencies or something from the University of Nicosia, Cyprus. They had an online massive. So Andreas Antonopoulos was one of the teachers.
I remember actually that university was one of the first, who offered these kind of courses.
Yeah. And after that, I had to figure out what to do with all this newfound knowledge. So I decided to start writing about Bitcoin, and I saw. I wrote Medium articles, which were pretty soon discovered by a publication called Hacker Noon, where a lot of the articles were published. And then one of the articles got sort of viral about how to gain control of your own keys before the Bitcoin Cash hard fork in 2017. And I had experienced stuff going viral on the internet before, because we had a rock video back in the day that got promoted by the Pirate Bay. They promoted bands at
I know.
So I knew what it felt like to have like a huge a thing sort of explode on the internet. So I thought maybe there's something to this. I should just keep on writing and see where it leads. And then I put those articles together into a book just to see what the process of publishing a book was like. And after that, as I told you, I had to write a proper book. So I did that and brought them to Riga in my hand luggage, 50 of them, gave 25 away and sold 25 of them. And the rest is history. Now I'm sitting here talking about my combined book in Hungarian, which is
amazing.
Surreal when I look back on how it's
I can imagine. I can imagine. You haven't written obviously books before, and although Bitcoin is a crazy interesting topic, not everybody wants to write about it.
Well, I've written songs for a long time, and I've written song lyrics a lot, and scribbled. I guess my mother is a journalist, or was a journalist.
Okay, so it's in your blood.
So yeah, I was never afraid of writing.
I know what you mean.
I like writing stuff done. Yeah, I've always liked it.
What was the inspiration? You knew already at the end that this is something you want to spread the word about, and this was important to you from the beginning to educate people, or it was just for fun?
I mean, I always felt that Bitcoin was the only alternative, and this alternative cryptos made no sense to me from the beginning. Like how the only thing this is something resistant to replicability on the internet, so it can't be replicated. That's the whole point. And copies of that are obviously not going to make it. Either this works or none of it works. so either all the shit coins go to shit, as they should, and Bitcoin survives and shines in bright orange, or none of it works. Because if you can duplicate it, what's the point? Like, there is no point. So you have to figure out, for a shitcoin to work, you have to figure out a completely different use case than sound money. And what's that good for? I mean, the whole point of this sound uncensorable money is that you can use it for absolutely everything. That's what money is supposed to be.
Exactly.
Like, money is more of an adjective than a noun, as different things have different moneyness to them. I mean, you offering to make translations, it has some moneyness to it. My book had moneyness to it when you accepted it for, so even from the get-go, I was a maxi before the term was even invented. And that's the most important idea that I've been promoting over the years, especially in these first two books. There's in Independence Reimagined, which is the second part of that combined book.
Yep.
And that is now available in Hungarian. There's something called the one-shot principle, where I try to explain in as easy as possible with why this can't be replicated. And if I recall it correctly, it goes something like absolute mathematical scarcity in a sufficiently decentralized distributed network was a discovery rather than an invention. It cannot be discovered again since it cannot be discovered again since the thing discovered was resistance to replicability itself. Yeah,
exactly. Logical, actually.
Yeah.
To be honest, that
was obvious from the get-go, but people didn't seem to get that, like, because it's kind of hard to wrap your head around when you live in a world where there are when each country has its own currency.
Exactly. Now I'm testing it because as it's available in Hungarian, I gave it to my dad. He's 80 years old. And but he's he likes to read. He read a lot of books in his life, political stuff and everything. And I was just curious, how understandable is it for an older generation like him? And it was very funny because he said that, it's a very, very good book, but every day I am only able to read just 3 pages because I have to process it.
All right.
And I was like, okay, take your time. It doesn't matter. You have the time of your life. Read it, then reread it, and ask whatever you have to. But he's really enjoying it so far, so I can report it to you.
That warms my heart. Like, knowing that there's an 80-year-old Hungarian man reading 3 pages at a time and needs to think after them. That's
exactly.
That's
but
something.
At least it started, because anyway, I don't want to tell you the whole story about people who still don't understand what I do. Obviously, this is my private life, but it's funny, that people always ask, like, okay, and what do you do? You are a lawyer, right? Yes and no, but what do you do? So, but I think you have the same stories. So, since this book, you've written already 4 books, right?
Yeah. So these are the first 2, Sovereignty Through Mathematics and Independence Reimagined, combined into a single volume called Sovereignty and Independence, or Bitcoin Sovereignty and Independence. And then the next one is Bitcoin Everything Divided by 21 Million, which is probably my most famous book, which I sort of had to write after the meme took off. And then the latest one is called Praxiológia, The Invisible Hand That Feeds You, which is a short introduction to Austrian economics.
Just a bit about 21 million. For those who doesn't know, there is the Bitcoin Infinity Day on the 31st of August every year. It started
21st.
21st. What did I say?
You said 31st.
Sorry. That's my dad's birthday. Almost.
He's born 10 days too late. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, so every year on the 21st, obviously on the 21st of August, for 2 years now it goes, right?
Yeah, it's been the first one was celebrated in 21, so it's happened 3 times.
Obviously.
And
the third one already, it was this year. Yeah, right.
Yeah, that's one of these bizarre living the meme. I call it living the meme. Like that's what you're doing when you're in Bitcoin, because this equation and everything had already taken off at the time, and I was in Mexico in the beginning of August 2021, where Ugly Old Goat organized the Bitcoin conference, and I had a swell time there, and I had the idea of like 821 looks sort of like infinity divided by, so why don't we turn this into a Bitcoin holiday? And I announced it on Tone Vay's podcast, and it took off immediately. Like Sailor retweeted it, and Adam Back retweeted it, and whatnot. And
wow.
And Fractal Encrypt made that beautiful art piece, the private and public keys. So then hashtag Bitcoin Infinity Day became a thing, and now this year we made a special on the Freedom Footprint Show. That's my pod, by the way, the Freedom Footprint Show. So go and like and subscribe, please.
Of course.
And brush your teeth. And we had an Infinity Day special this year where we broadcasted for 4 hours with a lot of guests.
Wow.
And about how they celebrated Bitcoin Infinity Day. And, yeah, it's
how cool. This is an achievement, I call, no? The greatest achievement.
That day is the weirdest day of the year for me, because like I get a new notification literally every second.
I can imagine. Like, Jesus Christ.
Just bizarre. It's hard to keep up.
Tagging you here and there.
Yeah.
And you mentioned the fourth book, which is called Praxiológia.
Yeah.
Can you explain what is Praxiológia and why it's important in the context of Bitcoin?
Praxiológia is the study of human action, a term coined by Ludwig von Mises in the middle of the last century. And it's the basis of Austrian economics, or reality, as I prefer to call it. So you could say that praxeology is to the subjective what mathematics is to the objective. Because it admits that every human decision made out of free will is exactly that. It's subjective and personal. And it changes over time, and economics should be based around the knowledge of that, and cannot be. It explains very clearly why economics is not an empirical science. You can't make a study and say that this is the case or that is the case, because the market is not a static thing. It's an organic thing that changes over time. So praxeology explains human behavior, and therefore also economics, by using a set of undisputable axioms, like man must act. Yes, we must act, otherwise we die. Like
it's quite close to ethics. No, sorry, but in the meantime, I am thinking, running the the codes in my brain. It's very close to ethics, and
you can sort of derive. It's hard to derive an ought from an is, but you can sort of derive ethics from it. You can at least say that arguing against absolute property rights will sooner or later end up in a an argument which is self-contradictory. If I argue, if I argue with you about you owning your own body, like who owns your body, and you argue against me that you don't own your body, then you prove that you do by using your tongue and your vocal cords and your lungs to produce the sounds to make the argument.
Yeah,
so these axioms are truthful or are true. You can't argue against them without contradicting yourself. And there's a lot to be derived from that. You can also, for instance, that value is always measured at the margin, and you can come to conclusions like the law of diminishing marginal utility. Like if I'm hungry and I have an apple, that apple is valuable to me because I can eat it. If I'm hungry and I have an apple tree, only the first couple of apples are valuable to me. The rest of the apple tree is not very valuable if I can't make use of it in any other way, because the apples will rot before I'm hungry again. So the good at the margin is always more valuable than the latter ones. And this is true for money as well, by the way. But money is like the most exchangeable good there is. So money has a very high value, even the subsequent units of it. But your first $1,000 is worth more to you than $1,000 if you're already a billionaire.
Yeah. I got it. And this is how Bitcoin comes into the picture, right? Within this theory.
Well, everything comes into the picture.
Yeah, of course.
But Bitcoin is interesting here because it's the only thing that has an absolutely fixed supply that is also divisible in so many parts. The Mona Lisa is immensely valuable. But you can't really split the Mona Lisa into 2.1 quadrillion parts like you can with Bitcoin, and it's hard to send small pieces of the Mona Lisa across the world, and the Mona Lisa would sort of lose its value if someone cut it up into 100 million pieces, right? But Bitcoin is this finite thing, so finite supply and potentially ever increasing demand equals number go absolutely bonkers.
I must admit, I haven't read this book yet, but I will. It's very, very interesting, and I must admit that I'm more like into the philosophy of Bitcoin.
It's very close to philosophy, though, praxiology. It's sort of there's a great Hans Hermann Hoppe book called Economic Science in the Austrian Method, in which he explains like the connection between objective reality and subjective interpretations of it is action. That's the bridge between the psychological and the real world. And the real world, the notion. We need to act to interact with the. I mean, it's literally in the word interact. That
exactly.
So it's a very interesting topic, I think.
Yes, definitely. So you mentioned that you host a podcast show called the Freedom Footprint Show.
Yes, it's me and Luke the Pseudo-Finn, which is my
I really recommend
brother
it.
in arms.
Yeah, it's hilarious, very good, and also very serious topics and very informative. What has been your most memorable episode or guest, and why?
Probably the episode we made in person in Riga with Izzy, the CEO of Amber App. Because like we had a great discussion, and we click. I click with Izzy, and there's a chemistry there that is hard to explain. And he's this Australian hippie type, and. I mean, we just love bouncing ideas and jokes off of one another, and that episode had a bit of everything: dad jokes, funny accents, and
check it out, definitely. I watched it. Yes, I watched it. It was really great. It's quite long, but it's worth every minute. So
thank you.
Yeah, I really recommend it. Is there any connection between Free Madeira and your show? which called also Freedom Footprint. So I am guessing that something is going on.
I mean, everything's connected in Bitcoin in some ways. I mean, we started the show on the Consensus Network's YouTube channel, which is the publishing house that publishes my books. I also published this Hungarian version, right? So Consensus' main thing is to translate Bitcoin books, but they also have some original material in English. My Everything Divided book was the first one they published in the original language. So I've been working with them for a while, and they're based in Madeira, or some of the guys in the company are based in Madeira.
Okay.
And are also part of the Free Madeira organization. And like the only reason I was on Madeira was for this Free Madeira organization when we started that. So the whole thing is the whole thing is connected. I mean, I got connected with that by Andre contacted me about the books first because I wanted to translate them into Portuguese. And he has another Bitcoin book translating company called Monstera Books, but they only translate into Portuguese.
Okay, just local.
Yes, and Andre and Nico from the Consensus Network, they weren't aware of one another, but somehow it turns out they're neighbors in Funchal. So so now they're collaborating on all sorts of stuff.
Cool.
And so that's how I got to know Andre. And then I met him in Miami, where he had brought the president of Madeira together with Daniel Prince and the actual Prince of Serbia, who will also come out as a Bitcoiner researcher. So they were there. All four of them were there as a group, sort of. So I got to know them a bit better and got to know Andre a lot better. And he invited me to Madeira, and I came to Madeira in May, about 1.5 years ago. And then he told me about this big gathering of big names in Bitcoin that were going to Madeira in June. And I was like, I need to be here. I'm coming back next month, Andre. You have to find something for me to do in this organization. And he's like, yeah, you can be a head of education or something. And,
head of education.
I don't know. But I flew back to Madeira and hung out with this fantastic group of people for a week, and we were in each and every institution on the island, orange pilling as best we could. And it was a really fantastic time. And now we set up this non-profit called Free Madeira.
This is what I was going to ask. This Free Madeira organization is very interesting. What's boiling at the moment. And also, if I know correctly, there will be Bitcoin Atlantis next year in March.
Yeah, so freemadeira.com, you can find information about the organization and who's in it and what we're trying to achieve. And the president is on board and is backing us. The non-profit is like voluntary donations, and the president matches that euro for euro. That's the deal.
How open-minded he is.
Very much, and I mean, I don't like using taxpayer money at all, but if you're going to use it for something, this is a very good cause.
Of course.
And the way I rationalize about working with the government is like, we're going through hyper-Bitcoinization anyway, and if we can make the transition smoother rather than more violent, that's always preferable. So that's why we're working with him. And now we've announced Bitcoin Atlantis a couple of months back, and that is a Bitcoin conference, or the Bitcoin conference in Europe next year. It's from the 1st to 3rd of March. And Jack Dorsey is coming, Michael Saylor is coming, Jack Mullers is coming, Lynn Alden is coming, Jeff Booth, a lot of great names in Bitcoin. And I'm really looking forward to that. I'll be on the island for like 3 weeks helping out with organizing everything.
Yeah, definitely. With my children, because I also discovered on their website there will be like kids area and some other stuff. So I said, okay, let's start the education inside the family. Obviously, I started already, but now they will have the chance to see it.
Yeah. So that's going to be great. Really looking
wonderful
forward
place.
To that.
Yes, me too.
And Madeira, I was Madeira-pilled way before I was orange pilled. I absolutely love that island and always have.
Such a beautiful island. It's really, I really love it. Yeah. It's a must. It's a must to do next year. So everybody put it in the calendar. Let me just tell you something. This morning, I opened X and I saw a tweet. Seyfried Amos retweeted an interesting stuff.
Mm-hmm.
The original writer of the post was Lynn Alden, and she was writing that there was this article on Bloomberg recently, and she wrote that she's really a great fan of the content of Bloomberg, blah blah blah. But this particular article was hitting her nerves, because the writer of the article goes like this, and there are some parts from it, like this is what the journalist wrote. So if you send someone Bitcoin to pay for something, there will be probably a typo in the address, and the person won't get it, and you will have to send it again, and your first payment will just be permanently lost. The other one, because this is still not the end, that, let me just, because I want to read it correctly. So the third classic problem is that if you are using Bitcoin to pay for goods and services, there is a good chance that you are paying for something illegal, and Bitcoin payments are traceable. So if you send someone $16K worth of Bitcoin to buy a $16K thing, first, some of your money will go missing in transit. Second, the Bitcoins you send won't be worth 16K and you will have to send some more. Third, the 16K thing was a murder and now you are in prison. And I was like, excuse me, did I do some time travel during the night? Are we back to 2012? What?
Yeah, this is written by a moron, sounds like, from the sound of it.
And I was like, good morning, where have you been in the last 5 years? So what do you think about the media that still having this rhetoric of Bitcoin on the darknet, getting illegal stuff?
Well,
and all the bullshit.
They're digging their own graves because history will not be kind to them. Like the thing is that traditional media is often subsidized by government and large corporations, right?
Of course.
And funded by these parasitic institutions to one extent or another. And they're very influenced by politics in general.
Of course, as everything.
Yes.
Nowadays.
But like young people today, they don't give a crap about the newspapers and televisions.
Luckily.
They're on the internet and they get their information. They get decentralized information, basically, or information from different sources, and they can compare one to another. And podcasts have taken over radio because, like, people want to hear what other people actually think, and not just 2-minute snippets of what they think. So everything is moving in that direction, and the legacy media keeps on, sounding more and more outrageously stupid by saying things like this. But we're in a great paradigm shift between the old and the new, and these things won't. This sounds just like when journalists used to write that the internet was a fad and it will all blow over, and fax machines will always be here, and I think that they're absolutely missing the point and missing the wider picture, and they have a very short time horizon when they write these things, because like 10 years down the line, things will look very different from what they look now.
Yeah, for sure. No, I was just, very surprised that this is really still what you can write about Bitcoin. And we are talking about Bloomberg, not, I don't know, some tabloids with
Bloomberg,
gossips,
Well, question of definitions, but Bloomberg is really blockbuster video. Like, they were the biggest at the time, but their death is near. They're like Fujifilm, they are about to be usurped by superior things.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. No, actually, I just read yesterday another thing about Bloomberg that I don't really want to talk about Bloomberg, but it just came up to my mind that I saw this YouTube trailer about the FTX scandal, blah, blah, blah. And the documentary was powered and made by and sponsored by Bloomberg. And there were a lot of comments underneath that people were saying that until now you were praising Sam for years, and now you are flipping and turning on the other side because now this is trendy to do this kind of documentaries about the scandal. Anyway, this is just a side story. So let me just ask the last question. What advice would you give to someone who is just starting to learn about Bitcoin? Obviously, reading your books. So say something else.
I mean, do your homework. Is one thing. Read up on stuff and how they work. No, I mean, there's always something more to learn. But like with any subject, do your 10,000 hours FFS. And also get some Bitcoin. Start accepting them for your goods and services. All you need is a smartphone, and not even that if you're clever enough. But
but this is level 2.
yeah, but start accepting it. Start using it and seeing how it works. Pretty soon, all these narratives from the top-down narratives from the media and whatever government officials will look completely ridiculous to you, because like, what's morally wrong about sending a number to another person? It's just ridiculous. Bitcoin has pointed out to us that money is nothing but information.
Yes.
And it's information about how we value things. And that's all that's needed. So be ready to have some of your old perceptions of of how the world works completely shattered, because that's what it does. Like, when you realize what's going on, you're going to see everything in a different light. So yeah, do your homework, brush your teeth.
Thank you so much, Knut. I really enjoyed it, and actually this is the greatest idea, because everybody's saying that do your own research, read this, listen to that, blah blah blah. But I think this is the greatest advice. Get some Bitcoin, try it, experience it, and if you get your first Bitcoins, buy Knut's book on the web shop.
Yeah, do that too. And
that's it.
Subscribe to the Footprint Show and
as well.
All of that. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Knut. Thanks. All the best.
Thank
and
you.
See you in Madeira.
Thank you, Kata. See you in Madeira.
Ez volt a Bitcoin Kebab, a BitcoinBázis podcastja.